Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. I want to thank you for participating and coming and joining us to hear an update on the Concord Middle School building project. Pat Nelson and I are co-chairs, and we want to welcome you. And alongside Dr. Hunter and our design team, I'll introduce them in a second. But just wanted to give everyone an update on where the project is, what's been happening since our last meeting, and then mostly share some information. Our designers will, our professionals, and then take questions and answers at the end. So we really want to hear what everyone is thinking about, what you have questions on, and we can do our best to provide answers or follow up if we don't have those answers. So with that, I will tell you that we've hit a major milestone, meaning we've finished the feasibility study and have moved into schematic design. And what that means, sorry, Pat, will you mute for a second? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
That's all right. No, you're good. Thank you. What that means is that we've made some major decisions and moved things forward to take one design into schematic design to fully develop and get to a price that we can bring forward to the community at a special town meeting and ballot for the town to decide if this is a project that they want to move forward with. So some major decisions were made in the feasibility study, and those include the size of the building, the construction delivery method, and also just some of the programmatic spaces within the building that basically are parallel in the size of the building. So at the tail end of feasibility, Kristen, would you bring up our goals real quick? I'm sorry. I just want to walk everyone through the project goals and tell you how we got to where we are. So awesome. Thank you. Here we are. So we obviously have a target project cost that we're targeting, and I'm going to get into that in a moment as far as where we are. But our major project goals are to replace the two buildings with one combined middle school, obviously grades 6 to 8 as it currently exists, and with a design enrollment of 700 students. If anyone's been following along, we have an educational plan that has broad-based support and is available on our website. And we would hope that those that are interested will go read it. But the major piece that comes out of that is our team teaching model, which really influences how the building's designed. So I'll let Kristen and her team get into that a little bit, but that starts to inform how the building lays out and how the classrooms are organized within the overall structure of the building. So that came out of the educational plan a few months ago and had school committee support and building committee support. And from that, we developed a general design that meets the delivery method of team teaching. And then lastly, of course, is the design for net zero energy. And that was part of the town meeting vote 2 years ago now, the amendment to, I think it was Article 17. So with that, we have structured our feasibility study to move all of this forward. And what came out of that was a lot of discussion about the size of the building, because with team teaching, if anyone's been following along, that lends itself to a somewhat larger building because you're organizing the classrooms in a way that the students remain within their teacher, the general team of the teachers, so they get to know all of those core students. And it just informed the building size in a way that was a little larger than the state otherwise would allow. So we had lots of discussion about it, ended up with something that we believed we were happy with. And then when we put a cost to it, it had us over the 180 to 100 million that we had previously talked about. So with that, we did a lot of talking, soul searching, looking for ways to reduce the building. And in the meantime, we heard from the community, and we heard from everyone here, as well as others, that a larger gym than what was proposed, which was 7,000 square feet, and a larger auditorium than what was being proposed at the time were desired from the community. Quite a bit of communication came through. So we as a committee were faced with a major decision. What do? We went in front of school committee, finance committee, select board, shared the feedback, heard from them, and then made what we believed was a decision about putting a cap on the size of the project. And I think in the end, based on loose figures, we thought a maximum of 108 million might get us there. From there, we heard from finance committee saying, no, that's too high. We heard from the select board saying, no, you're spending too much. We really need to be fiscally responsible with this. So our committee, after many meetings, long deliberations, lots of discussion, the educators came back with a few spaces that they were willing to forego and provide those services in other spaces rather than dedicated spaces. And what that allowed us to do was to provide a little bit larger of a gym. We're still getting there with numbers, but it would have a MIAA main court, 2 full-size cross courts, and a larger auditorium for performing arts. So this cost range that you see here, the 80 to 103, implements all of those changes as we stand today, moving us into schematic design. So that's exciting. I think our committee is on board with that. Of course, we're going to do anything we can in schematic design to whether, be fiscally responsible, make smart decisions, and provide the best building we can within this price range. And the only other update I have, I guess we could go to this. I was just going to say the construction delivery method. I didn't want to lose sight of that. Our committee, again, lots of deliberation, lots of discussion, decided and voted to go with design bid build over construction management at risk. So with that, you could move forward to the motion, back to the final motion on May 6th, as far as the space summary, which informs the size of the building. Mr. Johnson moved that we revise it with these recommendations to move us into schematic design, which is where we are today. So removing the dedicated square footage for makerspace and alternative PE. Those are the spaces I mentioned that the educators put forward that they believe they can provide in shared spaces in the building. And then revise the size of the gym for 2 74-foot cross courts, as I mentioned, and 1 single MIAA with bleacher seating. I want to say it's for 500. And then revise the auditorium size to 420 seats. And then lastly, review the building design to seek opportunities to simplify and lower total project costs, which is where I was saying we're going to look for any opportunities to make smart decisions and write, the best building for while being fiscally responsible. So that was really long-winded. I wasn't planning on saying that much, but there's a lot has happened if anyone's been following along. So our meetings have been long. They've been very informative, and our committee is committed to this project and providing the absolute best middle school for the students of Concord and the community of Concord. So with that, Pat, I've said a lot. I don't know. I want to turn to you as co-chair and see if you have anything to add or if I missed anything.
No, I think you covered it all. So we can dive right into the slides and then hear from the questions that people have from the community.
Okay, great. And again, I'm Dawn Guariello. I don't even think I said my name, but I, alongside Pat, co-chair the committee. Dr. Hunter, our superintendent, is with us tonight. And then Kristen, would you introduce your team so that as people speak, everyone knows who they are?
Certainly. So my name is Kristen Olsen. I'm project manager and architect with SMMA. I am joined this evening by Matt Rice from SMMA, our project architect. Mike Dohan from SMMA is our landscape architect. Martine Dion is our sustainable design specialist, and she is also here. And then also in the audience that we can invite in if there are any very specific questions to design, we have our partners from Ewing Cole. We have Keith Fallon and Bill Smarzewski with us this evening, who had all hands in this floor plan that I'll be presenting very briefly to you this evening, and more to come during schematic design.
Great, thanks, Kristen. And one other thing, I see Ian's with us, so I want to give him an opportunity to say hello and introduce himself as well. I don't know. Hey, Ian, there you are. You're muted.
There we go. Hi, Ian Parks with Hill International. We're the owner's project manager on the project that's working on behalf of the town of Concord. So good to be here.
Thank you, Ian. Great, I think everyone's been introduced, so take it away, team.
Great, so Ian, with your introduction, you can go ahead with the schedule overview, and then I'll take it from there.
Sure. So as far as the schedule goes, I'm sorry, I got some background noise here with the kids. As far as the schedule goes, we've got schematic design that goes through this year that leads us up to December 10th. I'm sorry, Kristen, do you mind going over this, because I gotta
No worries at all.
go grab my daughter. Sorry.
Sure thing. So, for those of you who have joined prior building committee meetings, we were looking at two potential schedules in the past. One was slightly shifted out slightly, but at this time we are tracking with the schedule that's shown on the screen, and have just wrapped up the feasibility study, which is the bright yellow block. And again, a little bit of overlap as we close out feasibility and ramp up into schematic design here in May into June, where we are now today. And schematic design is an extremely important process in terms of the schedule and the development, because this is where we gather all of the information and design input to form that goes into an estimating set of documents, which I'll go over at the end. And that estimate is what will come forward to town meeting and town vote at the end of the year. So the schematic design, it takes about 5 months, not including the estimate itself. And it's a very, very intense process of gathering a whole lot of information based on the decisions that were made in feasibility. So a lot of work to be done in schematic design. That scope and budget will then go forward to town meeting and town vote at the end of the year, so that promptly in the beginning of 2022, we'll hopefully have authorization to be working on the final design documents. So that'll take about a year, at which time we'll close out with the bid process and award. With, as Dawn mentioned, we are design bid build for this project, and so it's consecutive, and we'll go out to bid with the entirety of the project, get hard bids, get the exact number, and then proceed with construction, which will carry us into the end of 2024.
Kristen, can I just make one point? Don't mark your calendars quite yet on the December 10th, December 17th. I think those are placeholders still. So the goal is to have it end of year. So we're still working with Stephen Crane, town manager, and the town of Concord to solidify everything. So I just want to point out, those aren't set in stone, they're placeholders. So look for that information to come out as soon as we know it.
Great.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Con. So here we have a little bit of graphic representation of what you heard from Dawn in the introduction, and all of the work that I am presenting is from Ewing Cole, our design leaders and partners in this process, and also Mike Dohan on the site piece. So our building, what we talked about here is these blocks each represent a space or a program element, and the teams and the 3 grades in the school are here in green, for example. So there are 3 teams per grade, and you have 3 grades. And so that's just how they're lined up visually as the starting point. This shows that we had this makerspace affiliated with the media center at first, but again, the superintendent and the school department went back, took a hard look, and in order to balance the budget, scope, schedule, all of that, For those of you who remember the three-legged stool from earlier conversations, the makerspace is going to be accommodated in another way in the building program. And then similarly, there was an alternative PE space that was being accommodated in addition to the gym. With the gym having expanded, there again, the school department will be looking at new ways to accommodate what was planned for the alternative PE space. And that end result is again providing those two larger cross courts, so you'll get a lot more community use out of those two cross courts for practice games. And then also early on in the feasibility, we had in order to fit within the 100 million, we were only able to accommodate 270 seats in the auditorium. And again, as Don mentioned, it was really a lot of input from the community that helped the building committee gather information and input. And we are now at 420 seats, which is what our understanding is the current capacity of the auditorium. So with all of that pushing and pulling, our gross square foot for the building is 145,959. And again, that's just a tracking point in time right now. The square footage does not get finalized or locked in until the end of schematic design, because we have a lot to learn from educational programming meetings, and again, how to accommodate the makerspace and how the team commons will unfold, and all of those details will be worked out. And so that square footage is subject to revise slightly here and there as we learn more. And then here's the legend. When these get posted, you can dive more into which blocks are what exactly, but that's just a representation of our school program at this time. So again, early on, we were laying out the spaces, and the building committee with Ewing Cole explored a lot of different organizational diagrams on the site and arrived at this organizational diagram, which is in fact a very sustainable layout. It's east-west in the long axis. So everybody was really looking to that passive sustainability and site orientation here. A lot of K-12 schools also try to organize where the shared spaces or the community after hours use spaces are in one area where they can be separated from the classrooms and the academic spaces. So again, this was kind of the organizational diagram to how the layout came to be. One, the sustainability, and then shared space versus classroom space. And then the three grade levels currently are organized. These darker blocks are the three teams per grade level, each on one floor. So in more detail with walls, it kind of starts to show up like this. And right now, we left off feasibility with having the motion to accommodate the alt PE and the makerspace otherwise. And so Ewing Cole with Matt Rice and the team are working on an update to this floor plan, which will be actually going over with the building committee on June 24th. So feel free to tune in on that one if you'd like to see the first schematic design floor plan update. So then also when we get to Q&A, Mike Dohan can speak more to the site. We have here the building again in that east-west orientation. The site partie is really to keep all of the parking to one end of the site, keep most of the site as natural as possible, keep the fields contiguous and the athletic areas contiguous. This also works particularly well because this red dashed line is your existing building and existing parking lot. So while the school is under construction, the site can very cleanly be divided and safely separated so that the school can continue under operation while construction is happening on this end. And here you can see the rail trail in the lower fields just for orientation in Old Marlborough here. So just briefly slide with a bunch of words. All the SD phase work that we're going to be doing is this captures some of the decisions and some of that input that we'll be getting throughout the next 5 months. More diving into programmatic adjacencies, where those spaces are, how they lay out, more diving into how the driveways and circulation happen on the site, more information on exterior and interior material selection. So far, we only have massing and organization. So we'll get more into materials. And then also MEP systems, so that's mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, as well as sustainability. Those will be explored in more detail as well in terms of how to accommodate the town's sustainability goals. And always with our K-12 projects, an eye towards safety and security, and just passive and active safety measures that we'll be working on with your school department. So I will stop sharing there and look forward to pulling up the slides again so we can answer some questions.
I actually just want to give a plug for our website. I mentioned it earlier as far as information. We actually have a new website. So thanks to our awesome communications team and Dr. Hunter's administrative team for pulling this together. It's CMS, as in Concord Middle School, Building Project, all one word, .org. And there's tons of information, lots of presentations and data, the space template, there's it's information overload. So please check that out. There's a FAQ section that's forthcoming, hopefully very soon. And just want folks to know that it's there, that you can access it, and then you can also reach out to us through that as a form of communication. So please check that out. Have you seen any questions come through, Lori?
No, not at this point.
We welcome them. Whether are folks able to just do it through the chat? What's the procedure here, Dr. Hunter? I just want to make
They
sure.
can either raise their hand and I can promote them to panelists and they can talk or be on camera, or they can put it into the Q&A. If you look on the bottom of your Zoom screen towards the right, there's a Q&A button.
Excellent.
Either one will work.
Thank you. No questions? There must be some. Oh, I see a hand. Cheryl Shea, Dr. Hunter.
Let me just find Cheryl here for a minute. Cheryl, you should be a panelist now. You can unmute or come on video. There's Cheryl.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So I know I'm going to be considered a bit of a squeaky wheel, but I feel like I just want to give this one more shot. So
Cheryl, could you introduce yourself first so they know?
I've got to do that.
Okay.
So I am Cheryl Shea, and I am a very, very appreciative and grateful member of the staff, specifically the art department at CMS currently. And I am not there right now because I took the year off. I took a leave, but I will be going back in September, August. And I'm really appreciative of these conversations and the thoughtful eye that is being brought to bear here. As we move forward into the schematic design phase, we in the art department are hoping that the committee and the architects can keep in mind the optimization, if it's possible, of the visual arts classrooms. Despite the proposals, we've made proposals and advice, our department has done that. The current design includes only 2 art classrooms, which we believe will under accommodate the needs of our team approach program and the art department program and curriculum. Over the last few years, we have worked hard, the administration and the art department have worked hard to arrive at discrete but flexible spaces that will accommodate 3 teachers, 3 spaces, 3 grade levels. The current design actually will, in effect, we believe, take us back a few steps. So one idea, while we can squeeze things in there with 2 classrooms, I'm not sure that that's a wise idea. You know, it might be penny wise and pound foolish moving into the future is kind of the way we see it. And this will be my final plea, except for when we have our, breakout meetings, I think next week. But we'd love also, I just wanted to say that we would be very more than delighted. It would be natural to incorporate the makerspace into a third art classroom. It would be a very natural fit. So I just wanted to kind of just bring this back up again. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm going to ask either Dr. Hunter and or Kristen, if you want to.
Sure. So
address.
as Cheryl said, we've spent a lot of time on this. We know we can physically make it work in the 2 classrooms, and it is an adjustment from what we have. Kristen, do you want to add anything? They're going to be well-suited classrooms that we believe it'll be very successful. I think the unknown's a little of the challenge, of course, because it's so early in the project.
Yeah, I think that as Dr. Hunter mentioned, and you had firsthand experience, there was a lot of interviewing and scheduling and review to see what could and couldn't be accommodated, and how the art rooms are. I think you'll find they're large and they're well appointed, and you'll have the art room storage and everything that we hope will ease some of that sharing of classrooms that is very common in K-12 schools. And the key to any good design is also flexibility. So your mention of makerspace as a third classroom and things like that, we will always be looking for new ideas. I know that our site team in Ewing Cole are talking about outdoor art classrooms as well. So we'll definitely continue the conversation with the art department and hope to make the most out of the design.
That's greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, Kristen.
So I have questions now in the chat, the Q&A, and a hand up. So I'll just rotate among them all. First question in the Q&A, I think this is you, Martine. Will you be looking into a battery backup system as an alternative to a fossil fuel generator that would also help in the overall energy grid balancing of the entire Concord system? It would be used often rather than only in emergencies.
So we definitely will be looking at battery storage, and that will be in combination. They usually come in combination with looking at the solar photovoltaic system. The project is planned to be battery storage ready. And Kristen, it's my understanding that the solar photovoltaic will be overseen in SD, and making sure that we have all the readiness as part of the project, right?
Sorry, it broke up for a minute, but yes, the solar PV piece is being addressed through the town, and I know that the town manager is actively working on it. Yep.
He, just as an update, let us know at last week's building committee meeting that the Concord Municipal Light is in the process of working with an engineer to design it. So it will be designed in parallel with the building. So the infrastructure and everything will be ready and coordinated. And so that's well underway, and we very much appreciate.
And to clarify to the person who asked the question, every sort of solar photovoltaic systems that are being analyzed right now do include battery storage as part of the analysis statewide.
Great, thank you. We have a nice thank you here for all the information. I also have a question. The projected opening is January 2025. What issues do you foresee with moving in the middle of the year? Is it all right if I give that one a stab? So my story has been that prior to COVID, I kind of pushed back on that. And since COVID, I've decided we're pretty capable of anything. Obviously, we'll need to do some planning and preparation. The high school actually did move in over an April break. Yes, it just takes a lot of coordination and organization and a lot of strategy work so that we can be that fluid. I know I've been talking with my colleague in Harvard who just moved schools over a 4-day weekend at the end just a few weeks ago. And they just had it very well laid out. Things that they weren't going to use for the rest of the year were put away farther. And the things they needed more accessibility to are more predominant as things are unpacked. So a lot of strategy work there, but we would hate to see a gorgeous new school sit empty for 6 months without any children in it. So, thanks for asking. All right, let me see here. I've Mary Hartman, I'm going to promote you to panelist, and then we'll go to the Q&A questions. Hi, Mary.
Hi, thanks, Laurie. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for doing these types of forums and keeping us informed. It's great. My name is Mary Hartman. I'm the chair of the Finance Committee, and I'm speaking for myself. I'm actually wondering, I'm thinking about the cost. That should be no surprise to anybody here. And I see that your costs are now somewhere around 100 million to 102. And I know you're going out to bid in June of 2023. And we know that construction costs are going up right now. And I'm wondering, how confident are you that in June of 2023, you'll be able to build a school of this size with this, auditorium and a gym at this cost? What is there a risk in that number? And if there is, can you quantify that for us?
I can start, or Ian, whichever.
Yeah, I can take the question. I mean, I think there's inherently always a risk in trying to project what the cost of a project is going to be in future time, right? And so that's what we've done. We've taken our best stab at doing that by escalating out what we think the project costs today and escalating it out into the future. So, just looking at some of the trends in the market right now, obviously there's a spike in materials with wood and steel and other things. And we're continuing to track that, but the hope here is that things start to get back to a sense of normalcy over time. And prices of those materials would come down to a normal type of escalation over time. So that's what we're going to continue to track and try to project out, as we go along. And some of the safety nets that we have here, what we try to do is, we estimate things at several snapshots along the way. So one exercise that we'll be doing later this year is a schematic design estimate, where we'll go back through the estimating of the project with two separate estimators and do another gut check on costs. So that'll be a good thing for us to do later this year.
So you have contingencies in there, is that fair to say? And you'll be looking at it before you come to town meeting, obviously.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
It's worth noting, for those who don't know, that there will be two cost estimators that will reconcile to a agreed upon cost estimate, one through our designer at SMMA and one through Hill International, our OPM. So they will independently estimate the drawings and then come together, get on the same page and reconcile and agree on a price that will be brought forward. So that's typical in the process. So just want to let everyone know that will be happening at the end of SD.
Great. So the question on team teaching, and if we can hit the highlights of that, which I'm always happy to do. So team teaching is a model that allows us to create smaller communities of students within a larger school. So we're looking at 3 teams across each grade level for a total of 9 teams. The teachers are clustered based on core academic subjects, English, math, science, and social studies. And then the kids really stick within that team for those core content areas. So the same teachers get to know the same kids, which allows for a holistic view of the child, and teachers meet as teams to talk about how students are performing or concerns that are emerging across all of those different environments. And we're really better able to support student academic and social emotional needs. What we're really striving for in the new school, we've got some of those pieces in place in terms of staffing, et cetera, in the current Sanborn and Peabody buildings. What we don't have are the physical spaces that allow those teams to be proximate to each other and really be in a pod where they're all located adjacent and there's some common space among them, and the ebb and flow of what that team physically feels like is what we're craving and lacking right now. So we're looking for that. Probably the important thing to note of what is distinct from our team proposal versus some other team proposals is we've really been driving for what we're calling a quote unquote clean team, where teachers are not split among several teams. They devote their academic time and energies on just one team of students and really get to dive deeply without then having to get to know a second group of students. In many schools, the kids are on the team, but the teachers are split. And we're proposing a model where everyone's completely dedicated to a singular team. And we're really excited by what that's offered us both at grades 6 and 7 so far. So to the point where we put it in place to some modified extent, but really striving for the same goals in the 9th grade academy model that we implemented this year at the high school. Just really builds a different environment and a really strong community of learners and educators and, you know, well-rounded supports for kids. So thank you for asking that. That is one of the most exciting parts of the new school design for me anyway. I know there's lots of them. Question on, will schematic design phase include the flow of people, students, community at all, or is that already complete?
So I'll start, but Matt might chime in with additional color. But yes, it absolutely will. We are aware that when you have the organization of the academic wing and the shared spaces, we have already heard some concern about what happens when students transfer from one side to the other. So the team is absolutely looking at that. And then Matt, I don't know if you want to add more.
Yeah, I think in addition to seeing how people move, it's also what you alluded to earlier, Kristen, as you were presenting the plans, is understanding how to efficiently segregate the building off for after hours use. So that we can really shut the building off and conserve energy during the course of the building's operation when it's being used during the evenings or on the weekends if the academic. So we'll look carefully at sort of where those control points are set up and how we can efficiently sort of manage the flow in that manner as well.
Great, thank you. Ready, Michael? We have an outdoor space question. How have outdoor spaces and their relationship to interior spaces been incorporated into the schematic design in order to provide both program and informal outdoor space?
Good question. Well, let's see. So the short answer is yes. They are being, as we develop into schematic design, we are creating relationships indoor to outdoor. It was probably hard to tell from that site plan that we went over really quickly, but really the entirety of the classroom wing we think will be able to have access to the outside from the bottom floor, and possibly even some of the upper floors will have some access out without having to go all the way down. So as the program develops, the interior program develops, and we figure out what rooms are going to be where, we start developing some of those adjacencies. We already know that we have some space, I think we mentioned earlier, for outdoor art classrooms. There's plenty of space to the south to be able to come out of the building into the woodland area. The way we're developing the grading on the north side is also going to allow exterior access, at least into small spaces along there where we have a walkway. And then the space beneath the connector between the classroom wing and the more public wing, all that space under there is going to be open for and available for outdoor programming.
Michael, do you think you can move your microphone and just say a little bit of that again? It was a little soft and we want to be sure. I know, sorry.
I'm so sorry. Is this better?
The joys of Zoom.
Yeah. Is this better?
Yeah, it seems better, yeah.
All right, sorry about that. Let me see if I can actually turn my volume up a little bit more. I don't know if that worked or not, but no, sorry. what I'm saying is that the entirety of the lowest level of the classroom wing will all be open to the outdoors. So as we develop the program, the interior program, we'll be able to, in concert, develop the exterior program and make the adjacencies, the indoor to outdoor connections and adjacencies that way. Kristen had mentioned earlier about an outdoor classroom for art. And then we think we'll be able to, like I had mentioned, we think we'll have the ability to have access outdoors from the lower level of the entirety of the classroom wing. There's plenty of open space to the south. We're going to carve out some open space to the north so that the lower levels have direct light, and the space in between the connector between the two, between the classroom building and the more public building, all of that space under there is all going to be available to be programmed as well.
Great, thank you. I almost brought up the outdoor art space when Ms. Shea was on earlier. Let's see, a follow-up question to that is balancing outdoor access with security. And that's been a problem at our older schools in the past. Anyone want to talk the balance? I can relate to the question. It is an ongoing discussion, not a one-time fix necessarily.
I don't know if Matt, you want to maybe, in the interest of the microphone and everything, give it a start.
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of sort of careful design of the exterior spaces and visibility to the exterior spaces, both from the administrative area, which is really located at a central point within the overall building form and plan. And that really gives you the maximum benefit of that particular key space within the overall design of the building. But then beyond that, we certainly supplement it with technology in terms of the approach. And I think one thing that is very typical of new school designs is the proliferation of closed circuit TV cameras located around the exterior of the building, actually, to provide full coverage throughout. And that's something that's available to administrators as well as other sort of town officials to help ensure safety and security of the entire environment. And that certainly extends into the interior of the building. I think that's where people are probably more familiar with that approach, but certainly providing camera coverage outside helps to provide sort of just a passive level of oversight there. And it just helps everything to operate again in a safer and more secure manner. And that it really is how we take a holistic look at trying to make sure those exterior spaces, which are just so critical and wonderful in terms of the modern educational environment, how we can make sure that they're integrated and also feeling still safe.
Very good. Those are all the questions that we have right now. So Dawn, I'll turn it back to you to see if there's any last questions or closing comments.
Sure, I will keep looking to see if anyone puts anything in there last minute, but we really appreciate everyone's time tonight. We appreciate the interest in the project. Please follow along. Schematic Design will be a place where a lot of decisions are made in the interest of putting a cost to the project so that we can be sure to include everything that's needed for the school. And I see you're promoting someone, so
I saw a hand went up. So
oh,
yes.
perfect. Okay, but I just want to encourage everyone to follow along because the next 6 months will definitely be an opportunity to hear what decisions are being made, provide input if you have any. And we actually have recently released our Schematic Design meeting schedule to know what topics will be discussed when. So if you have something in particular that you're interested in, hopefully that's a meeting you can try to attend. So I just want to encourage everyone to stay involved so we can take a live question.
Go ahead and unmute or go on camera whenever you're ready.
I'm unmuted.
Great, go ahead.
Please introduce yourself. Please introduce yourself.
Saul, 25 Willow Street, member of the Finance Committee, but speaking for myself, I have a question. I was recently told by a contractor to wait at least a year before doing the work that we had wanted to do this year. because the price of wood and other materials will be coming down as things loosen up and the quote big container ships come into port. Is there any provision for reducing the price based on the cost of materials, which may actually go down?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little more here. So just to clarify, we are going to be bidding the project and starting in 2023. So we won't be looking at any of the construction related costs until then. So we're not too concerned about, with what's going on currently. While we are tracking it and we want to understand it, it's not what our reality is going to be in 2023. So I think that kind of helps to answer the question about timing. And I forget if there was another part to that or anything else we need to clarify.
So the quotes that you have now are based on when? Today's market or 2023?
2023 market.
And so the prediction is that it's going to be, that's what it's going to be in 2023 as opposed to now.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we're carrying a 4% escalation annual. Is that correct, Ian?
4% per year is what we're carrying. Yep.
And that's what I'm seeing on other projects as well. So there's consistency there for those who don't have access to multiple projects. That's the number these days, 4% per year.
Don, I think it's worth noting also the fact that as we move through the process, we're going to be re-estimating at multiple milestones as we move forward. So if costs do indeed drop, our estimates will be able to account for that sort of in real time when we do those later estimates. And so that's the benefit of estimating and the intent behind estimating at multiple iterations throughout the process as we get closer to construction documents.
That's a great point, Matt. So then you can adjust decision-making and things along the way. I mentioned there would be 2 parallel estimates that'll be reconciled at the end of schematic design. What Matt's referencing is that happens again at design development, 60% construction documents and 90% construction documents. So there are quite a few professional estimates that get reconciled along the way at major milestones.
And we had one more question come in as well.
Okay.
Are there going to be food growing or gardening opportunities? I would say it's a definite possibility. We definitely have other gardening projects going on at the other schools. We have a vision for a greenhouse even at the high school. I could totally see once the space is available and the building is up and we can see the surroundings that a vision will emerge at a new middle school too. All right. So that's what we see right now for questions. Great. I love that we hit a little bit of everything. That's one of my favorite parts of these.
Wide range of topics.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. So I guess I'll just, and Pat, unless you want to, I've been the only one talking tonight. I'm happy to let you conclude and say thank you.
I'll just comment that, these forums and citizen participation in this project has been amazing. So I appreciate you all taking the time tonight to come, but throughout the project, as usual, Concord citizens have not been shy about letting us know what's important. But it's been a really diverse group of people who've been involved. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
I second
Thanks,
that.
everyone.
Thank you all so much. Thanks for your time and great questions.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a great
Bye.
night.
Bye, everyone.